eat. Official, unofficial podcast, video, whatever you want to call it nowadays. I'm here back for another, like I said, whatever you want to call this, habits. Everybody has habits. I got a habit, you got a habit, we all got habits. I wumbo, you wumbo, he, she, we wumbo. It's wombology. Anyways, back to the habits. A very normal thing, give or take. You can have good ones, bad ones, positive ones, negative ones. The sham, whatever you want to call it. But the real question is, how are habits developed, formed? How do we break them once they are developed and formed? That's why I'm here, to spill my knowledge, or speak out of my mouth with a little bit of actual factual stuff in here. Because boring facts and only having facts and evidence, that's no fun. Not just that. So, to start off, how are habits formed? Well, environments in your scenarios play a really big part in that, or genetic-wise, actually. So we'll start with genetic-wise. A big one that is, or can be passed down is SAD, social anxiety disorder. It's where super comfortable, uncomfy in very social situations. That's what I was looking for, social situations. But that's a genetic one that can be passed down, because if, like, your mom has it, it just for some reason has a very high chance of you having it, which is kind of crazy to think of. Really say that you have terrible genetics. The second way is environmental, which would be you encounter something which then transfers you to having a bad connotation to it. Like, you go to the beach and you get stung by a jellyfish. Every time you go to the beach, you're gonna have this little sinking fear of, you being stung by a jellyfish, which would then add a negative take to going to the beach. Which, the beach is a scary place, as it should. But with habits, that would be every time you're in a stressful situation, you go and you pick at your fingernails. So now every time that you're put into a uncomfortable, stressed out, you're nervous, you're gonna go and to be in your safe zone, you're gonna go and bite your fingernails, pick at your nails, cause harm to yourself, which is not a good thing for any kind of situation. Which brings me to positive and good habits. A positive one would be every time you walk out of a room, you go and you turn off the light, because we love saving electricity. A bad one, like I said, would be harming yourself in picking at your nails, biting your nails, anything that's basically not good for you in general. Many people wouldn't think an eating disorder of any realm would be a bad habit, or not be a bad habit, but be called a habit, because you had some kind of trauma that induced this habit of eating or not eating whenever you're feeling a certain way would be a habit. I'm trying to think of a really not bad situation that's still kind of bad. Like if your dog died or something like that, and now every time you think about that, you go into a state where you don't want to eat, or because you are so sad that you go and you eat to cope with the loss of your dog, because that is the only kind of comfort that you can achieve is with food. That's why a lot of people who happen to be of a bigger size is because earlier in their life, mostly in their childhood, they have had some kind of trauma, and since they weren't able to get a good coping I guess, like the reassurance and the comfortability of maybe their parents or surrounding people, that they turn to food, because food is always going to be there for them, which is very harmful, obviously, to agree. In some, like you're sad, you know, you just got broken up with or whatever, so you turn to chocolate. That's completely fine because it is in a small ratio, but everything has an extent to it. It really does. And that would be overeating, or the lack of eating, is breaking habits. How does one break a habit? It was found that habits are actually really hard to break, even if they are the simplest one, like every time you leave a room, you turn off the light. I've known personally some people, they just walk out of a room and they just won't turn off the lights ever. It boggles my mind. Because you're passing the light switch. You can't just hit it on your way out. No, my consultants, we're not hearing this. Yeah, I don't understand. But through my research, I have found that to like quit a habit, you have to find out the root of it. So the root would be, for every habit that you have, there is some kind of reward and satisfaction that you're getting out of doing the habit, whether it's negative, bad, neutral, non-existent, but for some reason you're doing it because. A good habit that you wouldn't want to break is like brushing your teeth. You know, it's good for your teeth, it's good for your health, and everybody should brush your teeth. So the reward would be having pearly whites and having nice breath and just having a nice smile. Really, that wouldn't be one you would want to break. Locking your door whenever you get out of your car, because you don't want people going in and stealing your stuff. So maybe a reward that you could give yourself to then start remembering to lock your door would be, I don't know, give yourself a piece of candy every time you remember it, like a little Jolly Rancher or something. I don't know. I make sure I double, triple lock my doors. Actually, you know what? I have accidentally locked my keys in my car a couple of times because I do it. Any other habit, like turning off the faucet after you're done with the water, closing doors so that bugs don't get in, the light switch, remembering to close the fridge door. I sometimes leave that open by accident. Remember to lock your doors at night, really the extent of that. Nothing crazy. There were some facts thrown in there. There wasn't some facts thrown in there. Personal experience, research. This is so hard to do. Usually I just gotta talk nonsense. Another big thing, psychological wise, would be classical conditioning. It's where you take an item or an object and you pair it with another one. So, was it Pavlov? It was one of those old men that did old men things back in like the 60s with like psych and whatever. But anyways, he took a dog and he took a bell, and every time that he showed the dog a treat, he would ring the bell to make the dog drool. And so as he kept doing that, he eventually took the treats away and was able to make the dog drool just by ringing the bell, which is pretty interesting. Also, side note for the classical conditioning thing, as a psych major, you can really take these things that were figured out back in the 60s and apply them to now. I'm gonna go on a little ramble real quick, but like on TikTok, I have seen a lot of these like college girls, high school girls, whatever, these I want to say middle-aged women, but these younger girls, they're also psych majors, and since they have found out what classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and reinforcement learning, since they know what that is and how it works, they'll go and they'll take it for a little spin. Since I saw this video, and this girl trained this guy to think of her every time he was given a piece of gum. So like they were sitting in class and they got paired up, And so she had given him a piece of gum, and so now every time he thinks of a piece of gum, or he's given a piece of gum, he thinks of her because she was the one to slowly drill that into his mind. Anyways, the basis of it is that she was able to use this specific habit-forming formula, really, to then take it out into the world. I wouldn't say manipulate people, but very, very psych major-esque, really. But I feel like that is a very dangerous thing to have hold of. So, just make sure that you know what major the girl that you're talking to is in, because she's a psych major. You might want to steer clear of her, really. End of my side note. I just thought that was really interesting, that with a simple classical conditioning you could go and ruin people's lives. But that's just that. All in all, habit forming is normal. Everybody has it. It's nothing you can really escape from. That concludes whatever this is. Habits. I habit, you habit, he, she, we habit. It's habitology, really. But yeah, that's the end of it. Podcast, unofficial, official podcast, really, with the gang, with the crew. Because I have no friends. That is so sad, actually. Anyways, that's it. If I ever just talk to yourself for like 10 minutes straight.